When we talk about sometimes being stuck in life, we might feel the urge and the need to keep pushing forward. But sometimes we might need to just take a pause, and a complete system rehaul might just be what we need to push us towards our true self, our true calling, and our true passion. Welcome back to Inwardly with Sanjana. Today, my guest is Ashley Bremers. I've known Ashley for a long time, and I'm really glad that Ashley has agreed to join me on this show today. Welcome, Ashley, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sanjana. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous, but also excited. So thank you.
Yeah, great. So, Ashley, just to introduce you a little bit to guests, I can say that you're someone whose internal architecture doesn't really conform to one category or a individual structure. There's so many facets to what you've done and the things that you've explored, and I really want to bring that forward in the conversation today. I know you started off as a scientist in biochemistry and in labs, explored the restaurant business, and then moved into leading transformation for large scale enterprises. So, a whole plethora of very interesting areas of work. And you also recently completed a Harvard certification and an executive MBA. But having known a little bit of your personal story, I feel like your true credentials come from something deeper and having the courage to make a pivot and truly lean into yourself and your passions. So I'm excited to explore all of those areas with you today.
Thank you. Looking forward to sharing and talking about it too, because it has been quite a journey. Very hard
Yeah.
at times. A lot of reinventing myself and inverting the ways that I think. And if it can help
Mhm.
anyone else, I'm happy to share.
Thank you. Yeah. So you started off, you say, as a scientist does in a lab. And from there, you pivoted to going into setting up and planning restaurant businesses. So I feel like the structure of these two areas is very different. Labs are a lot more streamlined and structural. And then you moved into restaurants, which I feel like sometimes can be chaotic and also free flowing. So, what was the motivating factor there?
So it's a funny story. So I am from Boulder, Colorado, in the US here, and I grew up in a small town. I went to school in that small town. The University of Colorado, the university I graduated from, was in that small town. And I ended up working for the lab at that university after I graduated. So, 2.5 years of research, which I loved the research aspect, but it's very introverted, focused work, very data driven. And being a mile away from the hospital I was born in, I wondered what else was out there. So, hopped in at the time. I was seeing a man I knew all through college, and he was in a band. So we hopped in our cars and we drove to Los Angeles because that's where music was at the time. And and so we got there, and I needed a job. Moved there with a couple $100 in my pocket, and walked down the street into a restaurant while I was going to look for my next lab job. Started that night, and the extroverted, interactive piece of it, just people, 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 after being data, 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 was really fun and different for me. It became a whole study in psychology and process improvement and customer service and teamwork and all of these things that I didn't get from the lab experience. So through that, I ended up moving from LA to Santa Cruz, up to San Francisco, then back to Colorado and opening some restaurants in Colorado when for almost 10 years I was in restaurant operations, opening new restaurants, training teams, streamlining how businesses work, and waiting tables and bartending and managing and doing all the fun people facing things at the same time.
Yeah.
About 10 years in, I got sick of, I was wondering, I missed the data aspect. So I
Mhm.
started back at school at the University of Colorado again, same town,
Okay.
same small place, um, and started a PhD program, started studying for the PhD program and taking coursework and working in a lab for material science, which is incredibly data oriented again.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So a lot of different combinations there, but it looks like you definitely have a love for the structure and all of the other beautiful, amazing things of, just the fluidity of working with people.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I went, do you want me to, should I keep telling this part of the story or do you have more
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm curious to learn how all of this then moved into leading transformation, right? And you've done that for large scale companies in media, aerospace, defense. So I'm almost curious. I want to know the rest of the story here.
Yeah, yeah, happy to share. So from the lab, working again in the PhD program, I missed the people side again. I was so data focused, head down, doing research again, and I missed the people focus. And so I was leaving the PhD program. I'm a PhD dropout. I didn't finish. I'm not a doctor. I and my professor, who was the proctor of the lab at the time, said, "Help us start this company. We're going to start a company, and if you're going to leave
Mhm.
anyway, you have business experience from restaurants, and now you have engineering experience from doing these courses and starting this path that I didn't want to finish. Um, and most importantly, I had relationships with the graduate students. I had built trust and relationships with these students. So my professor asked me to be employee number one to help them start a battery company out of the basement of the university. And I was employee
Okay.
number one, started doing research and helping with grant writing and just really every looking across what partnerships did we need to build with universities around the world that were doing this and leaning in just to set the business up for success under a 6 month
Mhm.
proof of concept grant. And at the end of that grant, um, the type of grant that it was required you to be an engineer to work within engineering roles.
Mhm.
And I wasn't an engineer, I had dropped out. So
Yeah.
I moved on um, to do a couple different series of startups, which took me up to Minnesota and did a couple more technology startups where I was employee number one, trying to figure out the business plan. Some of them went well, and the last one didn't go very well. And so, again, I had to reinvent what am I doing? Um, I took a year off I knew that I needed healthcare, I needed good food, and I needed a
Yeah.
little bit of a paycheck coming in. So I went down to a Whole Foods um, and applied and started that day again, similar to the restaurant, how I got into the restaurant thing, and
Okay.
ended up for a year as I really looked at what do I want to do with my life, worked as a meat cutter in Whole Foods while I was highly invested in the Minnesota High Tech Association, um, getting in with networks there, doing a lot of networking and research on big technology companies to say, where did I want to be? Because I wanted to move from an individual moving around, bouncing around, seeing what I could do into a business where I could really be an intrapreneur and grow within
Mhm.
that company. And that company was Thomson Reuters. Had a large global presence, a lot really supportive of women and promoting women in leadership roles. I knew people who worked there who just said the most amazing things about it. And so I got into Thomson Reuters, and that's when my real business transformation, my large scale transformation journey began.
Right. Yeah, and that's how we met,
Yeah.
managing transformation activities at TR. So, yeah, definitely can attest to all of those wonderful things that you just said about the company. So it seems like you made so many pivots almost, and there must have been a lot of starting from scratch, right? So was this scary? Did you have moments of what the hell am I doing?
Still have moments of what the hell am I doing? Moments of what the hell I'm doing every morning, I think, through my entire career because it's never been consistent. I'm constantly looking for consistency, but life throws new wrenches in my path.
Mhm.
So even within Thomson Reuters, I was there for just under 4 years, and I believe I had, I think, four roles in under five or six different leaders. Just
Mhm.
constantly, I'd get sort of comfortable somewhere, and someone would say, "Nope, we need you to come over here and change this." And that's when you and I met under the
Yeah.
transformation, the global transformation that we were doing
Mhm.
for as the content organization came
Right.
together. And uh,
Mhm.
every time that I was really wondering, what the hell am I doing? What do I do here? It was always, I lean into the people side of things. And
Mhm.
there was always someone who reached out and said, let me just prop you up a little bit. I'm going to push you, but I'm going to prop you up a little bit too. And we have a mutual person, Jenny, who I think
Yes.
did that for us. So,
Yeah. Very lucky to have an advocate like that, to just give you that little nudge every now and then. So, yeah, I think that that's another amazing thing. I think through this journey of I think it changed for me too, like being in transformation. I don't know if it was just stepping into an area where there were so many people with a similar mindset and people who just were so focused on other people. I've been very lucky to find the right kinds of mentors and coaches who help you kind of get unstuck every time you're in that place of what do I do next or what's going on. So yeah, I definitely share that feeling, admiration and respect for all of those people.
yeah, the a big thing with it too is it's they come out of they seem to come out of left field. It's not it's the matches happen organically with those incredible
Mhm.
mentors that
Yeah.
you you're not it happens when you're not expecting it or you're not specifically looking for it.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's very
Uh, whether it's a happy coincidence or the universe orchestrating something, or whether it's just a energetic vibration that is resonating. Whichever way you look at, sometimes I think things just happen at the right time in the best way possible.
yeah.
So, you've then also moved into aerospace and defense and did some interesting things there. But then you also moved away from it and made that decision to walk away. I'm curious to know how and why, because it almost seems like the ideal role or this dream job that a lot of people would want. And then you decided to walk away from that. So, what was the thought process there?
Yeah. Well, I was when I left Thomson Reuters, I was recruited into healthcare for a while too. And most of
Mhm.
this, all these changes in my corporate space really happened off of LinkedIn, that I would get recruited on LinkedIn. So from Thomson Reuters, I started leading large scale organizational change management for um, the company United Health Group, which is a very large company too, for some of their large technology transformations. And another healthcare company recruited me. And then while I was at this MD Anderson Cancer Center, working there and doing large organizational change management for technology changes, um, impacting every one of their employees, all of their patients. So we're talking a lot of people with very important life or death situations. So a lot of high compliance and high regulatory environments. I got a call from the small town I was born in again that
Okay.
said, we're building spaceships in you're in this town. And I said, no, you're not. You're I said, there's no way. I used to ride my bike with my best friend up a dirt road to feed her horse apples where you say you're building spaceships. I don't buy it. Um, so I went, so I had to go for the interview to see what this was. And sure enough, they had the test vehicle sitting in the lobby of the entryway. And so I said, sign me up. Let's build spaceships. And I started doing transformation
Wow.
as they divested from their parent company and did a lot that moved into bigger transformation roles, leading a whole, supporting a whole technology implementation, reported to the COO and then the CIO, all dream roles in theory. A lot of times when I leave an organization or I make a change, it's because, so I've gone into my roles saying I can figure anything out, but who do I want to work for?
Mhm.
And all of these, I've picked a leader I want to work for. And then, so when my aerospace company after that, doing global spatial intelligence, called, I wanted to work for that leader. I'll figure everything else out. I think that
Yeah.
anyone can if you really put your head down and try and think about it as a big picture. But in the cases where I left, it was because the leader that I really liked working for had recently departed. And I hadn't picked places I wanted to be. I picked people I wanted to
Mhm.
work for. And so I'd start looking or get curious again when that leader left. And so really that's my primary change of leading the aerospace roles. There's also pieces of it that the environment of aerospace is very challenging. It's very
Mhm.
um, cutthroat. It's a lot of trying to think how to say it without just being rude about the industry. They do incredible things. There's incredibly brilliant
Yeah.
people. It's very competitive, and I'm very much a team player. And
Mhm.
so this time I set out with my last departure, I set out to say a bigger picture instead of just who do I want to work with as a leader and some of the team members, but who do I want to work with as a company? Um,
Mhm.
so initially, having completed my executive MBA and always having imposter syndrome because there's no training for business transformation. You just get into
Right.
it and get your hands dirty and start working with all parts of the business and you're expected to understand everything. And so I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And so that's why I went to the executive MBA program, learning so
Mhm.
much more about all of the business operations. And it really helped me understand that I do understand and I do bring value. And so, splitting from my last company, I said, let me see what it's like to start my own company. Right away, got some great engagements, but I missed being part of a core team.
Mhm.
So, I'm partners with my clients and my customers embedded in their business,
Right.
but there's some family aspect from behind the scenes of
Yeah.
talking through these challenges that just in the 4 months that I did it, I was really missing. And so I'm going way over on your question. So hopefully
No,
this is
no,
still valuable.
this is quite interesting. Go on.
But I found another a CEO of an AI company did a workshop for us for my school at the very end of my program, which just ended in March. Um, and in the training in the workshop, like, oh, identify with this guy. This makes sense, what he's talking about. And at the end, he said, contact anybody in this, please reach out anytime, contact, let's talk. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm doing really the same sort of thing, but I'm just starting off. It seems like you've figured it out. Do you have any tips, tricks, or some turf I shouldn't step on?" And we had an amazing conversation saying, "Hey, you can do this. These are some of the things he had run into," and um,
Right.
had an incredibly, it was so helpful for me of, "Hey, I can do
Mhm.
this, and there is a market for it."
Sure.
And looking at his site afterwards, there was a role posted for very similar to what we had talked about. So I reached out and said, "Would I be a good fit for this?" And right away he plugged me in with everybody, and
Uh-huh.
just the business models merge, and they're very human focused. And so I guess going back, making a very long answer a little shorter, of I missed the real human aspect. Being in aerospace and defense with these high level roles is kind of like being in a lab. It's very data
Mhm.
driven. It's kind of isolated. It's competitive, and I want something where I'm part of a team that is very
Mhm.
collaborative and human focused. And it doesn't, this is an AI company I'm moving into, so it's very data driven,
Yeah,
but it's not like being in a lab and being responsible only for your own research.
sure.
There's a team with you.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm glad you found something that resonates. So, talking about data and the human aspect, I think I've been asking these questions a lot, even in my own head, around AI and how it's taking away a lot of the human aspect at times. But I know there are a lot of thought leaders who are actually trying to bring that balance between uh, still having that human approach, the human touch, while using AI to, facilitate all of that. So, what's your view on it? What in your mind is like maybe the perfect dance between AI and the human-centered aspects of just everyday work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I I am a firm believer that you can't have one without the other. I think that
Mhm.
I think AI is a great tool for helping refine some research, pulling together all the pieces and summarizing what information says, but it's not, it doesn't have the creativity and life experience. You can't train that humans
Yeah.
have, of looking at what could be, or saying, okay, this is what the data says, but it's going to respond based on the data it has. And that doesn't mean that the data is always accurate. So you need some of that
Mhm.
core intuition to look at some things and say, is this right? So I think that AI and the human relationship is going to be an incredible partnership for progress. AI is good at taking some of the very mundane, repetitive tasks off of people's plates to allow for more innovative thinking. That said, where we are right now is, it's we haven't figured out that delicate balance between the two. It's
Mhm.
leveraging AI is now making more work for humans in some ways, because since they're only looking at the really high thinking pieces to be really critical of the data, there's either people who are sitting back, and I don't know if you've seen all these scans of neural activity, brain activity, while people are using
Mhm.
AI, but it's so much more limited right now,
Yeah.
because I think there's
Yeah.
assumption that, well, AI is doing it for me. I'm going to sit back and relax. Well, that's not very
Mhm.
effective. Or there's people who are like, well, it's doing all the easy tasks for me, so I have to do so much more of the hard stuff, and that's burning us out. That will burn us out
Right.
faster. So it's
Mhm.
finding a nice balance to let AI do the work that AI does, which we're still figuring out what that is, and let humans
Mhm.
do the work that humans are doing. And there's going to be some growing pains as these two pieces start to fit together.
Yeah. Yeah, that is It's quite interesting. I think growing pains is a good way of describing it. I think we're still in that phase of discovery. I know that there's so much usage, but I think we're still in the phase of discovery, and there's a lot to, it's a long way before we find that perfect balance. But it'll be interesting to see how this evolves.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so new and it's changing so fast. No one can
Mhm.
keep their finger on the pulse of what happens on a daily basis with new tools that are launched, new capabilities that come out, new regulations that are out there. It's hard to tell. So it's hold on, keep going, keep experimenting,
Yeah.
and lean in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you've certainly had a very interesting career. It seems like you've tried your hand at many things and always leaned into what you're truly feeling to not remain stuck in a position that was not resonating with you anymore. So, if you had to look back and think about what was the one biggest lesson that you've learned through this journey of just exploration?
Yeah. The So there's an incredible, I have it hanging in my office here behind the screen, but a quote by someone named Oren Harari, and it's that the electric light bulb did not come from the continuous improvement of the candle. So I'm all about continuous improvement, making things better, finding ways to improve, but sometimes you have to completely start over. Wrote it all down, start over. And as you and I have spoke about before, is I had one very key period in my life where it was completely burnt to the ground, start
Mhm.
over and reinvent myself. And
Yeah.
that was my personal complete transformation um,
Mhm.
that launched me on this trajectory to do what I've done and grow the way I have. And I'm happy to share some of it if you'd like.
Yes, please. I'm wanting to learn more about that moment in time because I know it was a complete 180 for you and took you on a whole new trajectory. So, can you
Mhm.
share more about what that experience was?
Yeah, I so in the beginning of 2016, I was running my last startup. I was the operations officer of um, a technology startup doing data management and IT asset recycling. And I was taking, I wanted to control everything. I wanted to push everything. I put everything on my shoulders of if things don't succeed, it's me and me only. And
Mhm.
I had a lot of things leading up in my life that created a lot of challenges there, and this just incredible pressure to perform. And it's not that I don't have that, but I've changed how I think about it. And through that, I was self-medicating heavily. I was a very high functioning alcoholic, and between the stress and how I was coping with it in unhealthy ways, I ended up in the hospital and had a real reawakening. Like my heart literally stopped, and I had the whole transformation of going to flipping to another side and seeing my life flash before my eyes and seeing how my decisions had impacted not just me, but the people around me and what I needed to really do to fix that. So when I woke up in the hospital bed, I said, I have a problem and I need help. And that was really the first time in my life that I asked for help, um, and admitted that I wasn't perfect. Knowing, I mean, clearly where I was not perfect. But this was the first time I was like, I'm not perfect. I can't do this alone. I need to change. And clearly how me driving what I thought was right all the time and having to control everything literally killed me. And so I had to reinvent myself. I knew that the startup that I was in was not good for me. So I left that in a way that they sold the company and made some made their money back on it, but not it didn't take off because a multitude of reasons. Some of
Mhm.
them I take responsibility for. I was saying yes, yes, yes instead of saying no, this is what's right. Um,
Yeah.
and the I had a really in that year I really looked into my past. I looked into my future. I set up really established what did I want to be with my life, what did I want to do with my life, and who did I want to be. And the that's when I was working in the grocery store in Whole Foods because I
Okay.
wanted good food, a paycheck, and healthcare. Well, I
Yeah.
reinvented myself and I changed everything. I split from my husband at the time. I changed careers. I had to move. I didn't know I was in Minnesota at the time and I didn't know anyone. So I had to form a new network of people who really helped feed and feed my soul and challenge me too, in a way that helped me grow and taught me how to do the same to them too. So that was really the transformational phase. And what I looked at was, um, so you, when you asked me to do this, you talked about the inversion method. So first thing I
Yeah.
did was Google inversion method, and what came up was something about growing hair, that you flip
Yeah.
your head upside down and you lean with your head hanging off so your hair is supposed to grow, and the side effects of that are dizziness, lightheadedness, or spikes in blood pressure. And I felt all of those at the time. It was pretty much like hanging my head over the edge and saying, "Come on, grow." Um, it was uncomfortable and it was different. And I learned a lot of lessons of how to really be, to show up for others, to protect myself, because you can't give from an empty cup. So I had to think about self care differently too. I had always looked at it as being selfish, but I realized that if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't help anyone else. So it's
Mhm.
always a struggle. I'm not going to go get massages every week or something like that. That feels I still don't feel good about that, but I am going to say no sometimes when it's too much for me. And I am going to prioritize health and both mental and physical health. And I learned that the hard way. And it was 10 years ago on March 27th, so just a few days ago. And now 10 years later, I realized that the industry, the businesses I was in were not filling my cup. I wasn't looking out for
Mhm.
me. And I'm going through the inversion method again, turning my head upside down,
Yeah.
feeling dizziness, lightheadedness, blood pressure. I don't know. I don't think my blood pressure's high, but it feels like it sometimes. Of that nervous,
Yeah.
anxious, what's gonna be. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
Wow.
was my
Firstly,
real
thank you
pivot
for
point.
sharing that. I know, it's a very difficult moment in time for you. And there's a lot of vulnerability around that. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. It does sound like you had a near death experience, and it's definitely a catalyst for complete transformation. Oh, wow. What a wild ride.
I don't recommend it.
um,
It was the best thing the worst thing that happened to me and the best thing that happened to me, but I do not recommend it for anybody. Don't let it get that extreme. Do some self-reflection and things first of that, but
yeah.
it in my case I was so fixated. I needed a real wake up.
Mhm.
And I careful what you wish for, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, true. So do you think that there are moments today that still get overwhelming, especially given this experience that you had, and you kind of have the familiarity of almost what rock bottom feels like? So as you keep navigating continuous change, Does fear creep up from time to time? Just in context to that experience and wondering if, is it a slippery slope once again? How do you manage that? Do you have protocols or tools or techniques or any sort of maybe grounding mechanisms that you've kind of cultivated to help you manage everything in the here and now?
Absolutely. The fear is very present all the time. Not
Mhm.
all the time. There's there's good days and bad days, but anytime that you're changing your routine is it's scary. It's exciting, but it's also scary. So when I had that large transformation 10 years ago, I had nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have money. I didn't have a job anymore because I'd left. I didn't have anyone to lean on back then. And so I set out um, to really change that. And I thought about, okay, where am I going? What is important to me? What am I going to do? And with with that dream, um, wrote it down to set a goal, and then broke that goal down into steps to create a plan, and then started acting on that plan. And it's not, the plan always changes. You have to build flexibility into your plan to make it work. A rigid plan will, it's not going to
Yeah.
work out the way that you want it to every time. Um,
Yeah.
but starting to act on that plan really makes it a reality. And there were so many days still that I don't know how to make things better per se, but I know how to make things worse. So it's just taking things one step at a time, one day at a time, and continuing to work towards that goal and adjusting plans, writing things down, having that network. I set out, one of my first things was to set out to really build a robust network of good people for all different things that I could bounce life off of, that I could bounce career off of, that I could bounce home improvement off of, just
Yeah.
knowing someone that I could go to and ask real questions of all the time, for any case was really important to me. And that's what I lean into the most when I'm having that fear again is write things down so I see it clearly. It's funny in my head, it'll be one story, and when I start writing it down, I'm like, oh, well, that's silly, or this is great, go do this. And
Yeah.
then bouncing it off of someone. And back to the AI thing, that's not something that AI can replace, that true connection. It can fake it,
Yeah.
but it's not genuine.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Totally. 100%. I feel that too. Yeah. So I think a big part of it is that you've kind of gotten comfortable with asking for help and not having to feel like the burden's always on your shoulders.
One of the one of the fascinating things that I didn't realize about asking for help is people then ask you for help too. And the feeling of
Mhm.
giving that help, being able to just be someone to listen or to be someone that someone wants to bounce ideas off of is so much more rewarding than the the ego hit of asking for help. So
Sure.
I had to reframe my thinking in that of saying, "Oh, look what I get for doing this
Yeah.
thing that I felt like I was giving up something or I was looking weak." It's
Mhm.
you become a trusted partner to others, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of community that kind of comes about. And even in the corporate world, we've talked so much about women helping women and supporting each other and advocating for each other. And I think collectively, we can all make a really strong team together. So yeah, I absolutely see the value in those kinds of exchanges because it's not what you receive. I think you receive more somehow through the giving.
Agree. Agree. It's
Yeah.
it's an incredible experience. The and through my life, it's been equal. I've had phenomenal women coaches and guides and friends and mentors who have helped so much because then it's someone who looks like me or faces some of the same challenges. And I've also had incredible male mentors who were just as important to pull me up and say, "You have a seat at the table too."
Yeah.
You're like, "Yeah, you're here because you deserve to be, not nothing else."
Yeah.
It's both of those. It's people of different cultures, different orientations. Everything is everyone has something to offer. Sometimes that thing to offer, I've met lots of people that I'm like, oh, what I know about this person is I wouldn't want to interact with them anymore. But hey, I learned. um,
Yeah, for sure. Every
they're taking
interaction has its
something.
own lesson.
Yeah, yeah. And they
Yeah,
probably felt the same. So it goes both ways. But
sure. Yeah. Well, I want to go back a little to the NDE because I'm just very curious about it.
yeah,
So, in that moment of, opening your eyes and almost coming back to this realm, did something hit you? What was the first thing that came up cognitively in terms of an aspect of your life that needed review or change? Like most instinctively, do you remember what those few moments felt like?
absolutely. I could never forget it. It's very, I think about it just about every day. It influences my life. So when you see the things in movies or you hear that your life flashes before your eyes and it comes up as pictures, like, oh,
Mhm.
running through a field as a child and then getting your first car, doing, all these things. It's not that at all. Mine was not that at all. It was all of the emotion of life at once and a true reflection of who I had been and who I had shown up as in an instant. Just so clear of I had been, I had felt the thing about saying perfection is when I was trying to be perfect, it's because I felt like I was letting everybody down. And so I felt like a burden. And so I was hiding and I was running, and that was part of my drinking and all is um, that kind of piece. And so I always felt like I was, see how to articulate this. I had it before, but now that I'm saying it in this forum, it's challenging. I felt like I had to remove myself from things until I could be perfect because I was burdening the people I cared about.
Mhm.
Um, and what I realized in that exact moment was I was the way that I was hiding and running and beating myself up to be perfect was what was hurting them. Not being perfect,
Okay.
but continuing to pull myself away or anything is the act of what I was doing trying not to hurt them was exactly what was hurting them. And so, and I was cutting off relationships and, really isolating myself. And it was so selfish. The way that I was handling it was so selfish. And so in that moment, I had a very clear, it sounds crazy, but I had a very clear decision of do I just let all this pain that I've been feeling by go, that I could continue to go on the path and go to the light. Um, but I knew it was very clear that all of my pain that I felt would be amplified to the people who cared about me. Or I could go back, face the music, get it all together, work
Yeah.
hard, clean up things, and make it up to everyone, including myself. And I said, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm going back. And I did the thing. I hovered over my body for a while and thought about it. I could see myself laying in the hospital bed and decided to go back and wake up. And it was so hard for so long, but I just kept taking one step at a time and moving towards my dream with a goal in mind.
Wow, that's amazing. Like as you're saying it, it definitely sounds fascinating because it almost feels like a movie in my head. But I can only imagine in reality, it must have been quite uncomfortable and quite difficult. But I think it takes a lot of resilience and grit to keep tapping into that change and see what life can be. And it's amazing that you've been able to do that. And here you are today, still following your passion and doing all of these amazing things. It's a fascinating story. And again, I know very personal. So thank you for willing to bring that up on this forum.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. I was looking before that point, I was always interested in the final destination, just get to the final destination. And now I've fallen in love with the journey and the process of how, I have my goal, my dream, but that's continually changing too, that it's just keep moving forward and enjoy the journey along the way.
Just enjoy the day and be present in every moment. So yeah, that's beautiful. As we're getting close to the end here, I'd like to ask if you had to go back to the Ashley who was a teenager, just setting out into this crazy, beautiful journey that we call life. What's the one piece of advice, or maybe two pieces of advice, if I had to say, you must absolutely do this, and no, Ashley, don't ever do this? What would those two pieces be?
Uh, It would be hard because as a child and a teenager, and a lot of people said, "Oh, you could do anything," but I didn't believe it. Um, and so, if I could go back and tell young me, like, you're, I think it would be the permission that you're not going to get it all right, but just keep moving forward one step at a time. That don't get paralyzed by perfection. Don't feel like you're not good enough. You can figure it
Yeah.
out. And that's it, is just keep going.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, definitely advice that I resonate with even today. I think sometimes it's a good reminder. And yeah, you just have to keep walking the path. And it's like, I think the headlights of a car, I heard this analogy somewhere. When you're driving down a dark road and you have headlights to the car, you can't see the entire journey, but you can see that next, whatever, 20, 30 feet, and then the next 20 feet after that. And then you just keep going. You trust that the path will keep getting illuminated as you move forward.
Exactly. And sometimes you have to slow down to move faster. So
Yeah,
forgive
absolutely.
yourself some, take some breath, slow
Yeah.
down a little bit, and you'll be shocked how fast you get to that destination. And then you got to figure out the next one.
Yeah. And I think that can be quite fun if we allow it to be and not get paralyzed by the fear and the need for perfection. So, yeah, it's a great story. Thank you so much, Ashley. All of this from, the elements of your personal life to the wonderful adventure that your career has been. I think it's a true testament to how you can find your passion when you just keep leaning in and taking one step in front of the other. And thank you for sharing that message with me and the audience as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such an honor.
Thank you. Well, for those of you who are listening out there, I hope this program or session has been as fun and inspiring to you as it has been to me. So if you're feeling stuck, just take a moment, take a pause, and remind yourself that demolition might just be what you need to build a stronger foundation. And we just keep taking one step ahead of the other, and the path will be illuminated. I hope you keep thinking inwardly. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.